Hello, and welcome to the lore of Braunhaven. Today we're going to be continuing our exploration of the Imperial Port, and we're going to be starting that off with the current age. So, current age, there is, of course, the natural supposition that the Imperial Port is abandoned. The general view of the people is that there is nobody in the Imperial Port. The Imperial Port is a relic of the past, and there's a lot of rumors and speculation about what goes on in what most people believe are the ruins of the Imperial Port. There are rumors that there are hobgoblins that come out of the Imperial Port and are known to raid the countryside. There are other rumors that say that the Imperial Port is overrun with denizens of the undead, that zombies and ghouls roam the empty streets of the Imperial Port. None of these are 100% true, but they're not 100% false either. In the current age, there are people that do make their lives in the Imperial Port. It is population-wise, it is most certainly no longer the second largest city in the Glaucian Empire. Other than the leftover architecture, population-wise, it wouldn't even be considered a city. It is for the most part, a hive of scum and villainy. For those that know, it could be argued that these people that are living in the Imperial Port are simply making the best of their lives that they can in the current situation, since the government of the Glaucian Empire is rather sour, and so people have to do what they have to do. And it can be said that the merchant district of the Imperial Port today is the most populated area, and there's several hundred people that live in the Imperial Port of the merchant, or in the merchant district itself. They are usually directly employed. Most of those people are directly employed by the Thieves Guild, and so, of course, with the Imperial Port being officially closed by the Emperor through Vuslux, the Imperial Port, the merchant guild just kind of evaporated. Their livelihood went up in smoke, and at that time, and they had to find other places, other ways to continue their lifestyle, and so most of them either changed and became traveling merchants, plying the eastern tradeway from Erebatia to Zlatoheim. And of course, a lot of these merchants just didn't really want to do that. Others boarded their vessels and left for either Erebatia. Some went to Orentis. Others went far to the south and took part in the slave trade that was coming out of the far southwest, and have been doing quite well doing that, in a number of markets. But the Merchants Guild, for the most part, has evaporated in the Imperial Port and in the Merchant District, and with that, the Thieves Guild. Being the Thieves Guild, they just went ahead and ballooned and took over. They just filled in that vacuum. They just took over the entire area. So, what do these people with the Thieves Guild do? Well, they are mostly river pirates and bandits. Some are sea pirates that make their way up and down the Great River, raiding what river traffic there is, usually barges. So if they are looking for food, a lot of the grain barges and fish barges, things of that nature, will be struck on the river. They also, of course, come onto the shore and conduct banditry against the towns and villages of the region. The town of Braunhaven has had several attacks from river pirates. So there's a lot of overlap between what comes in and out of the merchant district of the Imperial Port and, of course, the Rockskull Orc tribes. I mean, it sucks. Nobody on the shores of the Great River know who's going to be raiding them next. I would think that it would be far, far worse to get raided by the Rockskull Orcs than it would be by the bandits from the Imperial Port. And of course, most people don't realize that they're from the Imperial Port. Most people don't really think much about where they come from at all. Most of your peasantry and townsfolk are just going to want to pay the bandits to make them go away. They are very into the temporary band-aid fix. If we give them the silver and gold, they will go away. And really, this works out semi-well for the villages anyways, because there is animosity among those people towards paying the 33% quarterly tax to the empire. And so if they don't have any money, because that tax is on 100% of it is 33% of all assets. It's not just your cash on hand, it's all assets. So the way they look at it, hey, we would rather give it to the bandits and make them go away than give it to the emperor who treats us like garbage. And so there is a bit of that. And a lot of these bandits, when they do their raids on the towns and villages, it is completely bloodless. All they have to do is show up and say, pay me, and the town elders come out and give them a chest of gold, and they get back in their boat and they leave. It's a very, very easy life for them. So there's that, and a lot of this cargo, this raided cargo and whatnot, passes through, of course, the merchant district. Now, the merchant district itself is built directly over the Great River. And so there are buildings on not just stilts, but mostly on stone platforms that the river goes directly under these buildings, under great stone and wood archways, and overhead there are these stone and wood bridges that cross and connect the buildings. And of course, interspersed throughout underneath, there are private docks that connect to the many buildings of the merchant district. There is a vast array of stone passages and tunnels that wind down through the base layer of these buildings to lead out onto these private docks, so that in the old days, the merchants, of course, of the merchant district could load cargo directly this way. Today, it's much the same. The Thieves Guild, the bandits just load their stolen goods much the same way that the merchants did previously. Now, when coming into the Imperial Port, at least via the Imperial Tradeway, the first place that you're going to meet is the guardhouse. And the guardhouse, the Imperial Guardhouse, or rather the Imperial Gatehouse, this is, in the old days, the doors stayed open and all during the day, and all traffic would come in and out. Usually, the only time during the day that those doors would close was if, for whatever reason, there was a hue and cry that went up, and they would close the doors for protection purposes, to protect, of course, their supplies and their cargo and trade that they were getting ready to move out. But the Imperial Gatehouse today, those doors stay closed, and if you are coming to the Imperial port, you would go up to these doors, and they are large, 20-foot tall, 20-foot wide, double doors. And on one side of them, there is a normal-sized door cut into them, and a little slide window. And the window's always closed, and they are always closed and locked. You would come up to the door and knock on the door, and then cross your fingers that one of the, in air quotes, guards is going to hear you and answer the door. And then they are going to, of course, extort you for some kind of fee to enter. Now, the Imperial Gatehouse and the Clearinghouse are not the only ways into the Imperial Port. This is how you get into the Imperial Port in the official way. You are announcing yourself to the Thieves Guild, more or less, and saying, "Hey, I'm here to do business." This is not a bad route to go, especially if your party has the thief in it, or an assassin, possibly an acrobat, because or half orc. The reason for this being that you are officially announcing your entry, and the Thieves Guild can take notice. The other way, of course, is you can travel down along, Tender's Road through the farmlands and come in, usually through the Docks District, or cross through the intervening fields, and come in, on the southwestern or southeastern side of Yeoman Street. You can get in that way, and it's not hard to sneak or enter, or even if you're not sneaking, just to enter the Imperial Port. But if you're doing it officially, you're coming in through the Clearinghouse and the Imperial Gatehouse. So the question then, of course, is what is the Clearinghouse? So the Clearinghouse originally was where the Merchants Guild would take all of their cargo and all of the stuff that they were going to trade up the Imperial Tradeway to the capital city of Glaushine, or go up the Imperial Tradeway and hang a left at the town of Braunhaven onto the Eastern Tradeway and head up into the mountains to trade at Zlatoheim. This was a very lucrative trade. And so they would move all of this, all of the cargo that was going to be going up the roads into the Clearinghouse. And there it would be stored until it was to be traded. And usually that would be traded, or would be stored in the actual warehouses that are attached to the Merchants Guild on the eastern side. But the Clearinghouse itself also did have an auction block. And so traders that had made their way down, a lot of Ereboshian traders, rather than continuing all the way on to Zlatoheim, they would hang a left. And they would, coming from Ereboshia, they would hang a left and go south down the Imperial Tradeway, come to the Clearinghouse, and they would buy merchandise on the auction block. Do some speculative trade. What they thought, maybe this is a good buy and this will sell. So a lot of that went on in the Clearinghouse as well. And of course, the first part that you would find is the Imperial Gatehouse. And the Imperial Gatehouse consists of a small barracks on the second floor, and just these were people that were stationed at the Imperial Gatehouse on a permanent round-the-clock basis, and so there were, of course, two guard towers that on the second floor. They had a pretty good view of traffic that was coming down the Imperial Tradeway. They were usually armed with crossbows. Maybe occasionally they would have longbows, but usually it's going to be crossbows because it takes less training. They didn't have to spend any gold on, the Merchants Guild didn't have to spend any gold on training these individuals. And so on the second floor, those towers basically were, a security feature for undesirables that may have come into the gatehouse. This is not something that happened very regularly, so it was viewed that the stationing of the Imperial Gatehouse was kind of a cush job. And, it's not that the Imperial Port was very often attacked in any way. And so this, of course, was a desirable position, especially if you were for any rank, but especially if you were, an officer or you were in charge, because there just wasn't a whole lot to do. You guys sat around and you drank and you ate, and you watched people come and go, and that was about it. Now, the first thing that you see when you come in, of course, and this continues on today, is that there is a table in the center of the Imperial Gatehouse as you come in, presumably as you are loading in your cargo. And there would be an individual there that there was a ledger sheet showing what you were bringing in for sale, and you would sign your name to it. And the same would be true if you had purchased things on the auction block. you would sign out, and all of the items that you had purchased, along with a date and the stamp of whoever was selling it to you. The southern portion of the building, on the lower floor, is the auction block, and today, and pretty much the same thing happened in times past. The difference being that today, in the current age, the first floor is filled with all sorts of ill-gotten loot. So anything that the river bandits may have stolen, or they may have hit a trade caravan on the Eastern Tradeway, or because nobody goes up and down. Well, for the most part, nobody goes south on the Imperial Tradeway anymore. If they do trade, it is all north of the Eastern Tradeway. They don't bother going to the Imperial Port because they all think that the Imperial Port is closed. And so this first floor auction block is filled with crates and barrels and sacks of things that are for sale. And a lot of times you'll come in here and there will be crates that are open, and you might see bolts of silk from Orentis, or you might see fine jewelry that is laying in straw in an open crate that is all available for sale. They call it the auction block. It's not so much an auction on this floor as it is a offer a price, and the whoever the current Thieves Guild member that is in charge of the floor today will tell you yes or no, or they will haggle with you to get a better price. It is a black market, so you can expect prices to be anywhere from ridiculously low to absurdly high, because it's not something that you would normally be able to purchase. On the second floor, however, it is a little bit more insidious. The second floor, there is a raised wood platform in the middle of the floor that each corner has a brazier that is usually lit. And this is where they trade slaves. And the slaves are brought up onto the platform, and this is a true auction. The fleshmonger will stand up there and sell these people to the highest bidder, and whoever is in there to purchase can, of course, bid on them. And of course, you can make offers to bid on the entire lot if you'd like. The slave trade, you would think in the current age, because of the situation, wouldn't be that lucrative, but you would be wrong. Erebachia has a huge slave trade, and like it or not, the capital city of Glaustein actually has quite a large slave trade. A lot of these slaves end up being purchased to fight in the fighting pits for gladiatorial combat. Usually against captured monsters, creatures. We've got 5 slaves that are today going to be pitted against a single owlbear, and then bets are made. Or they will be, a lot of times, just for the enjoyment of the crowd, they will be faced off against captured criminals, and the whole auspice of what makes a criminal in the Glaucian Empire might be more shocking than you would believe. Asking if the cestus piece is really valued at such a high gold content per coin can land you in jail, because if you are asking that question, it is assumed that you are going to be engaging in forgery. And so, a lot of things about the Glaucian Empire, or the capital city of Glaustein, it's best just to not voice those questions and keep that matter to yourself. Now, directly connected to the clearinghouse to the east, there is a manor house that is built directly over the Great River, and this is, of course, the Merchants Guild. And the Merchants Guild, even in the modern age, in the current age, is appointed like royalty would be living here. There are places in the Glaucian, in the capital city of Glaustein, that aren't as well appointed as the Merchants Guild. Now, of course, it's still called the Merchants Guild. That was what it was originally. Today, it has been completely taken over by the Thieves Guild, and they like it that way. The thieves live in a very um, lavish lifestyle. Now, the there are, of course, offices for numerous high-ranking officials of the Merchants Guild, such as the portmaster, the guildmaster's office, and the current harbor master is a man named Escalin Finn, and he is their harbor master. And he is a short, pudgy man, and he sweats a lot, and his skin has the color of sweating bread dough. He's a very unpleasant individual. He has thinning gray hair and on top, long, stringy. He's quite the gross little man. And even with his out of shape stature, he seems that he is almost always busy. And so when you come into the Merchants Guild, if you are seeking Esclin Finn, the harbor master, for whatever reason, it is unlikely that you're going to find him. There is a 1 in 6 chance that he'll actually be in his office. Other times he's off doing other things. A lot of times he will be at a location known as Madame Bussard's brothel. So you actually have a better chance of finding him there than you would actually in his office at the Merchants Guild. The current guild master is a dashing young fellow named Tabor Marsden. And Tabor is essentially the current dawn of the Thieves Guild in the Imperial Port. And he's a tall, thin, roguish-looking man that basically he doesn't rule the Thieves Guild, with an iron fist. Instead, he employs cunning and thoughtful manipulation. He finds what people want, including his own people that are beneath him, and then manipulates them in such a way that they do what he wants them to do, and makes them believe that they may not have gotten everything that they wanted, but they are a step closer to their goals. And usually, this is a fleeting glance at what they may desire. It's not anything that's ever going to last. In most cases, in some cases, he rewards them. If they have done it and he didn't have to manipulate them, he's just as quick to reward them. He's not an evil individual, unlike the harbor master, Esclin Finn. Esclin Finn is just plain rotten. But Tabor is the guildmaster. Tabor Marsden is actually more just selfish. He thinks and looks out for himself, and part of that, of course, is thinking about and looking out for the Thieves Guild. Because if he's not the dawn of the Thieves Guild, then he doesn't have that power, and he doesn't have that influence, and he doesn't have that money, and he very much likes that softer, comfortable lifestyle. He, again, is a fairly busy man. Unlike Esclin Finn, he doesn't spend all of his time in the brothel at Madame Bussard's. Instead, Tabor, he occasionally is down at Madame Bussard's, of course. But usually he's actually doing business. He's actually moving around the merchant district, touching base with the Thieves Guild, touching base with the few stands and stalls and shops that continue to operate in the merchant district. And sometimes he even goes down and collects protection money himself. But he never does it. He never does it in a threatening, violent way. He does it in a nice, manipulative way. He wants you to like him because he gets more honey, than flies doing it that way. And so, Tabor Marsden, he too is only going to be in his office 1 out of 6 times. And like I said, the rest of the time, who knows where you'll find him? He could be anywhere, usually within the merchant district, but he's moving around all over the place. The Merchants Guild manor had a number of had a few guest rooms. Back in the day, the Merchants Guild, of course, would use these guest rooms to house um, people that they wanted to show off to, and um, in order to start new markets. And of course, there are these two guest rooms, and then there is a third guest room that was a kind of a group room. If there were a lot of if there was a delegation that came, a lot of times they would be put in the guest room. But more often than not, the guest rooms were relegated to servants or slaves that traveled with these merchants that they were attempting to woo, and so they would have the southernmost large room. Now, one of the interesting things about this is that the guest rooms all have a lock that is keyed to the same key. And so there are three keys, and those three keys will unlock any of those three doors. Those are generally going to be carried by either Esclin Finn or Tabor Marsden, and he hands those out as needed. Now, additionally, in along this wall and along the northern walls of the guild manor, in the entrance hall and in the guest wing, there are arrow slots on the walls, and there would be usually there are a few guards posted there. Watching over river traffic. They again, this is going to be a fairly easy job. Most people would view it as insane. First, it would be stupid to try to raid the Imperial Port. There's nothing there. It's closed. Second, if you are aware of the Imperial Port, attacking such a large thieves guild would just be absolutely nuts. And so there's really no threat. And so these guards, they stand their post just in case. Occasionally there is some kind of mutiny on one of the bandit ships, or some kind of interscene warfare. And so they might fire a couple of shots down, but for the most part, it's a nothing job, and it pays well. And so it is a coveted position. Usually, these guys are going to come from the Imperial Gatehouse to the east, and so they don't get to stay permanently in the guild manor. That would be the only thing that would make it a sweeter deal. Now, attached to the guild manor are a couple of large warehouses. Again, these aren't really, they're not like the lower floor of the auction house. You're not going to see a lot of crates and stuff open. This is stuff that they are storing, planning to move either at a later date, or they just haven't moved it on over to the auction house as of yet. And sometimes it's just, they're storing food stores, so they'll store grain, or sometimes salted meats, fish, things of that nature. And so there are much more valuable items that are stored here. Priceless works of art, gold jewelry, and jewels and gems, and all manner of things, of course, can be stored here. You never know, if you were to walk through these warehouses, you would never know what it is that you might find. But a curiosity is that in the southern warehouse, off of the western side, there is a large vault door, and this vault door is really very well locked. It is a triple combination lock, and if one of the combinations is missed, the other two locks reset. So you have to get all three. It will require 3 checks in order to get through it. And once inside, this vault usually holds a very large treasure chest that is the cash on hand for the Thieves Guild as a whole. And so um, you're not going. You could technically find, if they came across an artifact or a relic or something of great power and they weren't sure what to do with it, they're not going to store it in the warehouse. They would stick it in the vault. But for the most part, this is stuff. This is coin. This is stuff that they have already sold and turned into coin, and they put the coin into here. So they pay, wages to the Thieves Guild members, to assassins, to guards, to veterans, etc., is going to come out of this pile that is in this vault. Not very many people know that that vault exists, but it could be a pleasant discovery to adventurers that make their way through the Merchants Guild. So that will cover what we are going to discuss for this week. On Thursday, or rather on today, on Thursday, we will discuss the Grand Mall. And this is the Grand Mall is where the Thieves Guild and bandits literally have open stalls, and you can wander through the Grand Mall and purchase all manner of stolen goods in the open, and there's nobody putting a stop to it because, remember, the Imperial Port is closed. There's nobody there. So catch us on Thursday for the Grand Mall. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.